Welcome to Parenting Unscripted, everyone. I am your host, Katie Collett. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have a very special friend of mine in. This is Jamie Bastas. Jamie has been a friend of mine, for almost 20 years now. And Jamie, fun fact, used to work at Wavy as one of our 10 on Your Side producers. She was the very first person that I told in person out of my friend group that I was pregnant. And do you remember the question that I asked you? Like one of the very first questions I asked was, is it okay if I eat peanut butter when I'm pregnant? Because Jamie was pregnant at the time. Unfortunately, Jamie, you told me yes. So, but they were just like, it's so good though to have a pregnancy mentor. That's what you were for me, because you were Liam was born in July. Addie was
in February.
So yeah, about 5 months ahead of me. Is that right? That's mathing-ish.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of. That's why I'm a news anchor. I don't do math. But so tell our viewers a little bit, Jamie, first of all. You have two kids. Tell me a little bit about Addison and Maddox.
Yeah, I have two kids. Addison is 12 and going into 7th grade, and Maddox is 7, getting ready to be 8, and he's going into 3rd grade. It happens fast, right?
It does.
We live in Virginia Beach, and they are very active. They keep us very busy.
They're adorable and so fun. It's been so fun to watch both of them grow up. And it's funny, but because we're always like, oh my gosh, I can't believe the kids are grown up. We know that they grow up, but it's just like when you say that Maddox is going to be 8 years old, I almost don't want to believe you. It doesn't feel right.
I agree. On my memories yesterday, it showed up our maternity pictures, and it said that it was 8 years ago that I took these maternity pictures with him. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? I blinked. Truly, I think I blinked. Yeah.
Yeah, there is no doubt about it. All right, so you have Addison, you have Maddox. Let's compare the pregnancies between the two. Was there a difference, or did you feel like they were both on that same kind of track?
So the biggest difference was the time of year that I had them. So Addison was born in February. Maddox was born in August. So I had to go through the summer months, the really hot summer months, being pregnant with Maddox. The second biggest difference was that Addison was right on time. She came on her due date.
Yes, she did.
Yes, on her due date. She was very timely. Can't say that so much anymore. However, she was very timely at the time. And Maddox was a week late in the summer. Ooh. So that was not appreciated.
I do remember the waiting game when we're like, no one ever wants to say like, have you had him yet? Do you feel like you're going into labor? Because, as a mom, that just gets so frustrating because you're like, I want this kid out. Like, eviction notice, get gone.
Well, I remember the biggest thing that I remember is we were actually at Liam's birthday party. Yeah. And your mom looked at me and said, when are you due? And I said, yesterday.
I do remember that.
I know. And it was one of those things like everybody could just tell that I was just kind of going through the motions.
You had it.
Yeah. But I had reached my limit for sure.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, if you all want to find the picture of a dedicated friend, find a friend who one day after her due date comes to your child's birthday party with her husband and child in the summer. In July.
And I was in the pool because it really helped to float and to be cool. So, yeah. So he was not very timely. Yeah. But yeah, so that was the biggest differences between the pregnancies is the time of year that I had them. Everything else was pretty much the same. My cravings were different with each of them. One of them, I really wanted pizza. The other one, I really wanted chocolate, and I don't like chocolate. So that was weird for me. So yeah, differences like that.
Did you have, do you feel like the deliveries were different? I know Addie, it was some work.
Addison's was a lot of work. So with Addison, her due date was on Super Bowl Sunday. I went into labor on Saturday afternoon. I labored all day at home. And then I went to the hospital, and I still wasn't ready. They actually, I think we got to the hospital, I think it was around 7:30, 8 o'clock that night, Saturday night. And she was not born until 3 a.m. So it took a lot of work to get her here. She was actually stuck. She was stuck on my tailbone. So that took some work.
So was she sunny side up?
She was. Yeah. So they had to get her flipped. She was sunny side up and stuck. So then they had to get her flipped. So So it took a little bit of work.
Yeah.
But after they got her turned around, and I give all the credit in the world to those nurses.
Amen, sister.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't do it. I mean, they were so dedicated and so patient with the process.
Aren't they
like
the
more patient than
calmest?
I was?
Yeah. There is something about delivery nurses that are they are the calmest,
Yes.
most angelic people sent straight from heaven. They make you feel like you can do anything.
Yeah. And it wasn't just that you've got this. It was the proving to me that I've got this because I've never done this before. She
Right.
was my first child. And is it supposed to be this hard? Is it supposed to take this long? Am I supposed to feel this way or that way, or all of the questions, while she is steady trying to get my child flipped around, you know? And it's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
So then with Maddox, was it a big difference?
Oh my
delivery-wise?
gosh. So with Maddox, that one, I ended up having to be induced because, like I said, he was a week late. So I ended up having to be induced on August 1st. And we got to the hospital. There wasn't well, let me say, they told me to call the hospital.
Right.
And they said, well, come on in, but there's not a bed ready. So we got there. There wasn't a bed ready. Finally, shortly after we got there was a spot for me. And they had to, they gave me my epidural.
A dream.
And it wore
epidural.
off.
Yours wore off?
Half of it, one
Jane.
side of my body wore off.
No.
And so I started feeling everything.
No, ma'am.
So after about 45 minutes to an hour of contractions, I had to tap out and say, I don't know what happened with my epidural, but I can feel everything on my left side. And I don't want to feel anything on my left side. What can we do? So
Give me a full block.
So they ended up giving me a second dose just to get through that. And then I remember my doctor, amazing. Maddox's doctor's amazing. But she came in and there were multiple people delivering that day.
Of course.
And so she was juggling like 6 patients, including myself. And she came in and checked me. She's like, you've got a little bit of time, just keep working on it. The nurse is here. She's just going to work you through the pushing and the this and the that, and the counting and all of everything. Just make sure you're breathing. Well, as soon as she left the room, they told me to push, and Maddox's head popped out. And she went right. She goes, "Don't push anymore."
Okay.
And she ran down the hall and got the doctor. And the doctor was like, "Wait a minute, what happened?" I was like, "He was coming whether you were here or not."
Yes, ma'am.
So for him, while I was in labor all day in the epidural and contractions and all that, the actual birth part only lasted 8 minutes.
Oh my gosh, Jamie, that is
So it was an
wild.
incredible difference between the two.
I want to share with the viewers after this break some of the tips that you gave me about immediately after delivery, what I needed to know. And thank goodness I had you, because I did not know these things. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that after the break. We will be right back with Jamie Bastas on Parenting Unscripted. Back now on Parenting Unscripted. I am your host, Katie Collett. Jamie Bastas, a dear friend of mine, is the guest. And we were just giggling in the break about things that we forgot that happened after delivery, but stuff that she did help me with. And one of the things was you explained to me what you called the hoagie. And it was really the greatest description. And I explained it to all of my friends who are expecting now. And I mean, a lot of people don't realize what we have to do right after we deliver that baby. We got to put on these netted, you remember like the netted underwear, right? That are just going to fall off your body, but somehow they stay. Yep. And then how did we layer? Do you remember what you told me we had to do to layer?
You put on one of the biggest pads you've ever seen. And then you put 3 tucks, the witch hazel tucks, the circles.
It's like like a hoagie.
And then the ice pack.
Yep.
And then you pull it up.
You hike it on up. Listen, there's no pride left, right?
None.
After you deliver a baby, no pride left. It's just give me all the medication for everywhere that has just been, basically driven through by a Mack truck. but we made it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, you know what? I feel like that's the thing that always helped too was, the advice that you gave me. And then I always would think to myself, I would see women like you and some of our other friends at work, and I know my sisters, and I was like, okay, everyone gets to the other side of it. So like, you can do it.
Yeah.
You've seen so many people do it, but you're just so unsure.
Because a lot of people don't talk about what to expect afterwards,
Yes,
right?
it's
and
so important.
And I realize everybody's journey is very different afterwards. But the medical stuff that you have to do and the way that you take care of yourself afterwards is pretty standard, right? So, but that's the part that you don't know about, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. You have no idea.
nobody had told me that. And when the doctor told me I had to do that, I'm sorry, what?
What do you want me to do?
Nobody prepped me for that.
Yeah.
And so that's why I felt I had to prep you for that.
And you did so well because you're like, they're also going to give you this spray that's like a coolant spray.
Yeah.
And I was like, where am I spraying this? And
Right.
why? And you can just imagine where we had to spray this stuff. But it heals and it makes everything so much better. Another thing, too, that we've talked about so many times is when friends and family come over. They've been, you can have people who are very helpful and people who are not. But the super helpful stuff, what did you find that friends did?
So, well, first I want to talk about my mom. Oh my gosh.
She's a dream.
My mom was a godsend. I remember her coming over and just staying for a full week because my husband didn't have any time off work. So there wasn't any parent leave or anything like that after the baby was born. So he had to go back to work, and he felt like he needed to be there. So my mom said, "Don't worry, I've got it."
Yeah.
And my mom came over, and I remember having this moment where you're in this brain fog and you've got this newborn baby that's not sleeping, so you're not sleeping, and all the diaper changes and all the things. And I remember looking across the room and seeing my mom vacuum my house. And I was like, thank you.
Yes.
I mean, like vacuuming the house, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the kitchen, making sure we were fed. But aside from all of the help that she was, I mean, she basically like moved in for a couple weeks.
It's incredible.
And I think honestly with Addison, it was 2 weeks that she came. With Maddox, it was 1. But because we were kind of a little bit more, we kind of knew what to do at that point. But with friends, the biggest thing for me, oh my gosh, the people that brought food.
Oh gosh. Yep.
That was amazing. But then also, they were also very mindful of nap times. And that was one thing that me being like, oh yeah, just come over whenever you want. I had to be really aware of the nap times and feeding times and all of the things, because like when you're nursing and honestly, they can just get hungry anytime, like at the drop
and all
of a
the
hat,
time.
so you really are at the baby's beck and call. So it's just being understanding about that. And, and bringing food.
Here's the thing too with the food. It doesn't even matter if it's food that I would normally eat or like. We're going to eat it and we're going to like it because we didn't have to make it. And it always tastes good no matter what it is.
Yeah. And it's so thoughtful to think they might not have time to do that for themselves. So yeah.
You just might not feel up to it. You just gave birth. And if your husband, even if your husband is home, he's tired too. He might not be physically recovering, but like it's a lot on both parents.
The sleep schedules are all thrown off.
And if you say you're coming over, be on time, because we might be staying up when we could be napping or resting. So that's a key thing that I learned. Well, I was always on time, but like if friends were coming over, sometimes they'd be like 20, 30 minutes late. And by that point, your baby's down for a nap and you want to be napping too, but now you kind of feel like you have to entertain, but you're recovering.
I remember a mutual friend of ours showed up right after I had Maddox, and she said, oh my gosh, it was amazing. And it caught me completely off guard. She said, I'm here. I've got him. Go nap. And I said, I'm sorry, what? And she said, I'm here. Go nap. And I said, are you serious?
Is that Reba?
No, it was Carrie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Carrie Fury.
And so it caught me completely off guard, but I was like, oh, are you really? Like, this is amazing. Thank you so much.
And you felt like you could trust her.
Oh, for sure.
She's a mom. We're moms, like, go to bed, go lie down. And what a gift.
I know.
That woman's just a gift in herself. But that's
absolutely
so incredible.
Yeah.
And also, I was finding too, some people will come over with like really strong perfume or cologne on. Did you have anyone do that?
I did not have anybody do that. No.
I did that. And then they wanted to hold Liam, and they did. And at the time I was like, I didn't really want to say like, hey, could you not hold him because your cologne's too strong? Because I was afraid that it would hurt their feelings. But knowing what I know now, I'd be like, hey, let's try to air off some of that cologne so my sweet little newborn can breathe. Yeah. But it's just stuff that I didn't think of at the time, because there were times, I think when you're a brand new mom, you're just kind of trying to be, nice to everyone, and you want to entertain and help everybody. But like, man, we got a lot on our plates. And we're just sort of trying to figure out life. Yeah. After this break, we're going to talk about the transition that both of our kiddos just went through from elementary to middle school. And it was not just a transition for them. It was a transition for us too, wasn't it, Jamie? There were some times where Jamie and I would be like, do you understand what this is or how to get anywhere? So we're going to come right back and talk a little bit more about that big transition in just a moment. We are back now on Parenting Unscripted, and we're here with my guest, Jamie Bastas, who is a good friend of mine for almost 20 years now. Used to work together here at Wavy, and both of our kids our oldest two, my only one and Jamie's oldest, both just went to middle school this year, completed their first year of middle school. And what a learning experience that was, Jane, wasn't it?
Yes.
How did Addie do? How did she feel with that transition from elementary to middle?
So she loved being able to, she loved being able to change classes and having a little bit more independence and freedom, like being able to have a locker and not having to walk in a straight line like they did in elementary school. Yes. All of that stuff. She really enjoyed that. I think the biggest transition for her was she was very, very active in elementary school. Yep. Very active, involved in everything. And when she got to middle school, she didn't do that. And it was for multiple reasons, because she does extracurricular activities outside, like she's an athlete outside of school, but she also had a very strenuous workload. So she wasn't really sure how sixth grade was going to go. So she didn't sign up for a lot. So that was the biggest transition, I think.
Yeah. And how did... Right. And I know that for our children in Virginia Beach City Public Schools, they had really no home, and I say really no homework. They didn't have homework in elementary school, and then you hit middle school, and it is a bit different. I know Liam did not have as much homework as Addie did, though, just kind of a difference in teachers and some classes there, right?
Right. Addison in fifth grade did not have it all throughout elementary school. With the exception of COVID when we were home, right? Right. But absolutely. All throughout elementary school, there was no homework. There was hardly any projects. There was hardly. The biggest thing that we did was make posters for her SCA,
right?
That's us for
to
Liam, run for SCA
when they're running for office.
That was really the only thing that we had to do at home. And then you get to middle school, and the workload was so much greater. And honestly, because we kind of thought that might be the case, we bumped her sporting stuff down to 2 days a week instead of 3 days a week when school started. We did that intentionally because we weren't sure what we were going to be faced with when it came to the workload. And I'm so glad that we did, because there were some nights where we were up until like 11:30 just trying to get homework done. And, that being said, there are some children who can come home straight from school and get all of their homework done. That is not my children. Addison needs that break. She needs to come home and unwind. And after being in a classroom all day long, we get it, and she also does Zero Bell. So she was there an hour longer than all of the rest of the kids. So to come home and have a chance to unwind and not have to jump right into homework was really important for her. But then we were up really late.
Yes. And for those who don't know what Zero Bell is, it's an extra hour in the day where the kids will either, have PE, or they can do an extra elective. That's what I'm looking for. So it gives them the opportunity to do a little bit more. But yeah, it was a big adjustment there. And then Jamie and I would text or call one another really throughout the school year at times. And we really had a conversation, really the biggest time at the very end of school, saying that we as parents were confused. It's just so different, because in elementary school, you have the parent-teacher conferences and everything that your child's doing. And then in middle school, it's like, the parent-teacher conferences were gone unless you called one. And then there were so many different apps. And then some of the teachers used the apps, some used email, some didn't use any of that. And you had to get to them a different way. It was confusing.
Yeah. So instead of dealing with just one teacher like you did in elementary school, and for us for 5th grade, we had two teachers for her 5th grade year. But then for 6th grade, you have 7 different teachers. Like you said, 7 different apps, 7 different ways of communicating. Even something as simple as a sick day, where I would call the office in elementary school and send like a seesaw message to the teacher. You can't do that in middle school unless you're going to go through all these different apps to let the teachers know what's going on, right? And so that was a big learning curve, a big adjustment. But I remember, and you and I talked about this, I ended up doing a deep dive into one of the apps one night. I mean, for hours. Like, where can I find where her assignments are? And then if we were out one day, like if we were out of town and she had missing assignments, where do I find where those are? How do I help her navigate this? And there was such a learning curve. Addison is an Avid, and they had like a back to school night where the Avid teacher went over everything with us. And that was so incredibly helpful. But there's not like a handbook or like a parent tutorial night for parents.
We need a class. We need a class so our kids can go to class to figure out how to communicate with the teachers. And you can email them, and obviously the teachers are wonderful folks. I'm a teacher's kid and we love teachers for sure. It's just confusing for the parents to try to figure out where everything is at what point in time, especially when we still have kids who are not telling us, I'm missing an assignment. Well, what is it? How do we get to it? What do we do?
Every Sunday night we would get kind of like a mini progress report every Sunday night for where things stand for the week and, that far into the semester. And that's where I would be like, wait a minute, why do you have 2 missing assignments? And she's like, oh, well, because I missed that class because of my doctor's appointment the other day. I'm like, okay, well, where do I find these assignments? And then you look through Parent View, you look through, oh my gosh, you look through Canvas, you look through Remind, you look through all of these different apps, and finally you stumble upon it and they're like, okay, I guess that's how this teacher handles it. But everybody does it a little differently.
We definitely need some, I think, parental training. Did you find, I know Liam socially, I mean, he thrived in his classes, but socially in school this year, he was like, he loved it. He had a ball.
So, that's been a big hurdle for Addison. Addison's always been very shy. While she is starting to be more outgoing, she finds her people and she loves them hard. That's the best way for me to describe that. She finds her people. And this year was a big hurdle for her because some of the people that she became comfortable with in elementary school went to different schools. And so thankfully her best friend from kindergarten had gone to it was kindergarten and 1st grade. She had gone to a different school for 2nd through 5th. And she came back and went to the same middle school as Addison for 6th grade. And honestly, it was like they'd never missed a beat. And I'm so thankful for that friendship because that's one of Addison's people, but she has such a hard time. I say not making friends because she's very likable.
Loves her. She's great.
But it's just putting herself out there.
I was so impressed with her though, Jamie, this year, and we only have a few seconds left, but I have to say, just observing her and seeing different things that she was involved in, she really put herself out there. I know a couple times I texted you and I was like, that's Addison. Like she's out there. She's doing these things.
She surprises me for sure. So, and she loves it. So
I think she's just going to keep growing and thriving and being amazing, just like her mom and dad. Jamie, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I couldn't think of really anyone better to have on, one of my very first friends here at Wavy and the first friend that I told in person that I was pregnant. So thank you for always being a guiding light for me. I appreciate you very much. Having me. And thank you all for joining us for Parenting Unscripted. Remember, new episodes air every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for being here today, and we will see you soon. Be good.